class, and welcome to our lesson on the Transtheoretical model of change, presented to you by Nick Armas, Cassie Newman, and Casey Campbell. In this lesson, we'll be giving you an overview of the Transtheoretical model, including a brief history of its conception, the stages of the Transtheoretical model, and the processes of change. At the end of this module, you ought to have a well-conceived understanding of what the Transtheoretical model is, its 5 stages, and how to move between them. We'll also be framing this lesson with an example scenario of alcoholism, with the intent of showing how the Transtheoretical model can be used to assist an individual's move to a healthy lifestyle. Let's dive in. The Transtheoretical model was developed in the late 70s by James O. Prochaska. Prochaska was interested in studying tobacco research. He wanted to understand why some individuals are able to quit smoking independently and others require assistance. The Transtheoretical model was the result of this research and subsequent journal publications by his colleagues and himself. The model focuses on the decision-making process involved in intentional change. Put simply, the Transtheoretical model assesses an individual's readiness to act on a new behavior and provides strategies for them to move towards the intended behavior. Alright, pay attention now, kids, because this is the important part, the stages of change. They are in order: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. As I discuss these 5 ideas with you, I'll be relating them to the trouble of alcoholism, as stated previously. Pre-contemplation. Pre-contemplation is just how it sounds. You haven't thought about the need for change yet. You have no incentive to change since you have not identified a problem in your behavior at all. Were I a man of overzealous indulgence in fermented items, I might not be able to see the impact of my behavior on myself or the people around me. Transitioning from this state involves something called decision balance, which more or less means that the individual must weigh the positive and negative effects of change and stagnation. People in this stage often need encouragement in this area since they tend to overestimate the negative effects of change and underestimate the positive effects. An alcoholic may struggle to understand how much healthier he or she will feel when they achieve sobriety. They may not understand the positive impact it might have on their relationships. They might focus on the difficulty of quitting and the painful physical withdrawal symptoms. Contemplation. People in this stage have realized that things need changing, but need a nudge in the right direction. A key indicator of this stage is when the individual begins to imagine the person they would be once change occurs. When in this stage, minimizing the individual's perception of the challenge is key. This often takes outside intervention. So in our alcoholism example, our subject is going to want to start talking to friends and family members about the desire for change. Our fictitious alcoholic might want to seek a therapist about their journey from pre-contemplation to contemplation. A therapist will be able to identify which molehills a patient has made mountains out of. Preparation. As SpongeBob once said, I'm ready.
I'm ready! I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready.
Go, SpongeBob!
These steps may not involve a reduction in consumption, but they will help to create a support infrastructure once they finally decide to kick the habit. If our friend wants to successfully move himself to the next level, he needs to start making a plan of action. He needs to determine if and when he will be visiting intervention organizations like AA. He needs to start identifying effective ways to replace this alcoholic behavior with something more positive, like jogging, when he feels the need to drink. Action. We're here. We've done it. We've started changing. Things aren't perfect. We may slip up sometimes, but we're becoming committed. Our imaginary alcoholic friend, who I'm finally going to name Gary, has gone a full week without a drop of the creature, and he's not feeling so good. If Gary wants to continue fighting the good fight, he's going to need to find a way to muscle through. Larry can begin to reflect on his success and empower himself. He can remove himself from situations that tempt him to relapse, like not hitting up that bar with his friends. It's probably a good idea for Jerry to reward himself with something special for coming so far. Maintenance. Congratulations, Terry, you did it. Change has happened and our buddy Harry has finally sobered up. From this point on, he just needs to maintain his behavior by seeking support through social groups. One of the most important defenses Carrie has is self-efficacy, or the belief that when challenges arise, he can meet them. In addition to the Transtheoretical model, Prochaska identified the 10 processes of change as strategies for moving from one stage to the next. We've got this helpful little image here illustrating which of the strategies bridge the gaps between different stages. Try and view them as recommended paths between stages instead of absolutes. Starting from the top. Consciousness rising. This is where Gary learned that he was doing something unhealthy. This is when Gary first finds out there is a problem. Environmental reevaluation. In this process, Gary looks around and finds that he is having a negative impact on the people around him, and begins to think about how much better it would be if things were different. Dramatic relief. This is when Gary has an emotional episode consisting mostly of fear or dread because of consciousness rising. A feeling of euphoria may follow upon learning of solutions to his problem and that others have had similar experiences. Social liberation. Gary thinks bigger and realizes that society at large would treat him better and be better if he were to behave differently. Self-reevaluation. The healthy behavior, Gary realizes, is a part of his character. It's what he perceives is part of the best possible version of himself. Self-liberation. Here, Gary's belief about his ability to change have changed positively. He is starting to make commitments to change. Helping relationships. My mommy tells me I'm a good boy every day. She is part of a helping relationship, and Gary can be part of one too if he finds a supportive friend, relative, or mentor. Counter-conditioning. Running, painting, and yoga are all things Gary can do to counter-condition or replace the unhealthy habit. Reinforcement management. My personal favorite. Gary can increase the rewards he gives himself over time as he becomes more and more successful at his change, while attempting to reduce the rewards that come from the problem behavior. Last is stimulus control. This involves using cues that encourage healthy behavior. Whenever Gary drank, he would also smoke a cigar. So now Gary tends to avoid hotel rooms and bars that allow smoking because it gives him the urge to drink. We're at the end of our presentation on the Transtheoretical model of change, originally conceived by James O. Prochaska. We hope you learned a lot about Prochaska's stages of change and the processes of change. Leading into our discussion topics, start thinking about how this process can be applied to your life or organization. Give some thought as to how each of the 10 processes of change fit into each of the 5 stages of change. Maybe even come up with some reasons why this model is lacking. We hope you liked our presentation. Cassie, Nick, and I wish you well on all your assignments in this class. Have an outstanding day.